Look, I don't really get too excited about pre-construction condos in Toronto anymore, but for this one, I'll make an exception. Details to come on the other side, right after this. Bjarke Ingels is one of the most famous architects in the world today. In fact, there's a name for architects and designers of his stature in this world, and they're called Starchitects. And coincidentally, his company, the Bjarke Ingels Group, short for BIG, you see what he did there? It's quite clever, is known to do, well, big things. And they've been building some of the most iconic and bold projects all around the world. And at only age 43, I think we're gonna see a lot of him in the next little while. Which takes me to his latest and his first ever project in Toronto, aptly named King Toronto. Located in the trendy and posh neighborhood of King West, the building will take over 600 feet of frontage. Now, that doesn't really sound like a lot, but that's almost 2 football fields worth of frontage on King Street. And this project is being collaborated with Westbank Corp. And for those of you who aren't familiar, they're based out of Vancouver and they're just only the biggest high-rise builder in the country. Westbank and Bjarke are in the midst of finishing a very popular project, Vancouver House, which is slated to be finished, I think, in 2019. And this developer, for those of you who don't know, has been making some serious headway into the city. They're also responsible for the Honest Ed site at Bathurst and Bloor, otherwise known as Mirvish Village. And that project is massive. So after 4 years of consultations and back and forth with the city, King Toronto has finally been approved. 4 years! It took 4 years to get approvals for this thing. And this literally happened just 2 weeks ago. And as soon as they got approval, they put up this beautiful art installation, which is called Toronto Unzipped. It looks like a zipper that's opening up. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. And it's located at the construction site where the condo is going to be at 533 King Street West. And it's open to the public until November. So not only will it serve as a marketing tool for the condo launch, but it will also serve as a hangout spot for the next couple of months. After November, my understanding is they're gonna take it apart and they're gonna move it to Vancouver and give it its final resting spot. Just as a sidebar, this thing costs $2 million to dismantle and put back together again. $2 million. It's not exactly pieces of Lego, is it? But if you want to learn more about the installation, then I would highly recommend that you watch the Netflix docuseries Abstract, and you want to look for episode 4, where they specifically follow Bjarke and his team as they go through the process of brainstorming and putting together this beautiful exhibit and pavilion, which was originally located in Hyde Park, London, in the Serpentine Gallery. And it's a fantastic documentary because you get a sense of who Bjarke is, how him and his team work, and just their overall design philosophy. I had heard of him before, but it was this documentary that really got me into him and to understand him and to really like what he stands for. So you should definitely check it out. But let me tell you, the city is buzzing with this new project in King West. Not only because of the architect or the developer involved, or even the price point, we'll get to that later, but because of the boldness of the design and what it represents for the city. It completely goes against everything we've ever done when it comes to condos and high-rise living in Toronto. Because what do we usually do when we launch a condo project, guys? We try to build it as tall as we possibly can with a standard podium, and then try to cram in as many uninspiring, unimaginative, and indistinguishable units, which in the end makes it a commodity. Right? I know, I get it. It's all about economics. I get it. But I believe this project will challenge the conventional way of thinking here in Toronto, that you need to trade creativity, artistry, community building with making money. I don't think you have to trade off on any of these at all, and that's what Bjarke is trying to prove here. I mean, look at the thing. It's completely hollowed out. It only rises 16 stories in height, and it's got these peak-like mountain things with a courtyard in the middle that's not just for residents but for the public to use. I mean, that's valuable real estate. I mean, who does that? Bjarke does that. That's why this is special, and that's why I'm talking about it. Here's some more facts about the new project for you. So the building calls for slightly more than 500 units, which is a very low number based on the size and the magnitude of such a project. And whether it was intentional or not, 500 units is very limited, and I think it's going to create a sense of exclusivity. Whether this was deliberately planned by the architect and developer, I don't know. But being in Bjarke's first ever residential project in Toronto, I think it carries a bit of cachet to it. So now to the price. What I'm hearing is pricing in the first wave of buyers will be starting at around $1,500 a square foot. Hold on. I know. That sounds crazy. It sounds ridiculous. Doesn't it? $1,500 a square foot? That's insane. But if you drill down into the comparables and what the resale market is doing right now, you'll see that many condos in the core of downtown are approaching $1,300, $1,400, or even $1,500 a square foot. Of course, we're talking about premium grade and Yorkville type locations. But if you have been following my channel the past 2 years or even attended my seminar where I talked about condos reaching $1,000 per square foot and how it would be off to the races once we passed that number, then you would have known what to do. And you would also understand why King Toronto is an interesting opportunity. Because in less than 2 years, we've basically gone up $500 per square foot. Okay, now here's some perspective and a comparison for you. The recently launched YSL project by Crestford is going to be 98 stories high, and it's going to have a total of 957 units, which is almost double the amount of units that King Toronto will have. And they're also selling at around $1,500 a square foot. And I also know that these two projects are going to be marketed to different buyers and different types of investors. And I think the King Toronto project, frankly, will not be for everyone. I believe the types of buyers who are going to be interested in King Toronto are mostly going to be end users, people who are fans of architecture, of design, of urban planning, development, real estate, marketing, advertising, or even technology. These are the types of people who I think are going to be most attracted to this project and who can also afford it, frankly. But I tells ya, with the limited amount of units and the vibe and the buzz that we're getting around this project and the architect, I think it will do better than anyone ever thought possible. Because what happens when you're not really in a rush to sell? The price goes up. This project will be so unique, so special, so different, and so bold that it's almost preposterous. But this is exactly what we need here in the city. We need people with boldness, with imagination, who don't just care about making a quick buck. So if you're watching this, Bjarke and Ian, I'm so proud and happy that you guys are working in Toronto now. We need more of this. I believe that Toronto and the GTA will offer a very big and blank canvas for you guys to do your thing. So please do more stuff here in Toronto. And if you need to sell the units, you know who to call. Holla at your boy. So I personally think Westbank and Big priced this project pretty well, potentially leaving some money on the table for individual investors, even at $1,500 a square foot. Because that's how the condo game started in the first place, when developers weren't sure if the project was gonna sell out or not. So they had to price it so that units would move. And what we started seeing developers doing was pricing projects into the future value, instead of what the present value is. So that's another reason why I like this project at King Toronto, because they basically offer to the first swath of buyers the current resale value. So you're buying at market rate today for a game-changing project in the future. I think that's a pretty good bet. And again, it's totally different from what all developers are doing. It's so contrarian. I love it. And another thing is, because it's only 16 stories high and it's really sort of flat like a bungalow, and if Bjarke is working on the project personally himself, this thing's gonna get done in about 2 or 3 years, in which case more people will move into the building and into the area and love it, and the building will just market itself. Nobody needs to sell this thing. It's gonna be massive, it's gonna be gorgeous, and it's really gonna stand out. A 98-story condo, that's gonna take easily 5 to maybe even 7 years to build. So for those of you who are early enough to catch this video and to really understand what it is I'm trying to convey here, if you make a move on this project, I believe you will be able to reap the benefits. So give me a call or email if you're interested in this project at King Toronto. I'll try to get you some units. VIP sales open in a couple of weeks time, so if you like what you've heard so far and you're interested and you want to get on the list, make sure you contact me as soon as possible so you can get head of the line access to this very special project. And remember, I don't do a ton of promotion for pre-construction condo projects, guys. I just don't do those anymore. But if I'm doing it now, there must be a very good reason for it. So I hope you guys are ready for something. Seriously, Bjarke, Ian, give me a shout, guys. I got you.